We lead off today with the very latest on a mass killing in an Ottawa suburb. You're looking here at the street where Ottawa's homicide squad says 6 victims were found dead inside a home. And police say 4 of the dead are children. 2 are adults. We have some considerable clarity from Ottawa's police chief, Eric Stubbs. I was just speaking to him moments ago. He confirms 1 other victim is in hospital. No word yet on whether that victim is a child or an adult, male or female, but what we know is that person was transported to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. There is also news of an arrest this morning. Chief Stubbs telling us the suspect is male. He could not confirm at this point the suspect's age, and adds investigators are trying to determine the suspect's link to the victims. But the chief says it does not appear to be a case of intimate partner violence. We're going to hear more from the chief in just a second. I'll play you some of the interview we just had, but let us take you, first of all, right to the scene. And Sonia Koenig, who is a CBC News colleague from Ottawa and has responded, as everyone has, to this tragic story. Sonia, you are right there. What is the scene? Maybe you can give us a sense of who's there and the police response and the latest that you're hearing there from police.
Yeah, Heather, so I got here about 6:30 this morning. Very, very quiet, almost eerily quiet on this street. This is, as you mentioned, a quiet area of Ottawa. It's a suburb to the west of the city, and just not an area where, you know, people that we've been speaking to say they would ever expect to hear of something like this happening. So when I arrived this morning, a lineup of police cars, then we noticed, you know, sort of a coroner going in and out. You can see behind me the residences. It was one of these homes where this incident happened overnight. Police called about 11 o'clock. And, you know, you mentioned that I know that you had just spoken with Ottawa's police chief, Eric Stubbs, and he described what they arrived to as a tragic scene. As you mentioned, 4 children killed in this, 2 adults. They are still working to identify who those people are. And they have arrested a suspect. Our police chief here in Ottawa calling this a tragic and a complex investigation. We've also heard this morning, Heather, from the Mayor of Ottawa, Mayor Sutcliffe, sending out a tweet saying, devastated to learn of the multiple homicide in Barrhaven. And he was calling it one of the most shocking incidents of violence in our city's history. Heather, I was born and raised in Ottawa. I mean, I lived away from here for a while, but in my memory, I cannot remember something of this level happening. So police still coming and going from the scene here this morning. And
Sonia, so many questions, and listening to the police chief as I was just moments ago, it's clear that they too have questions not yet in a position to answer, such as the relationships among the victims and the victims to the suspect and things of that critical information that we may get further today. When you say it's a quiet neighborhood, have you had a chance to speak to anybody nearby who heard something late last night, who is, I would imagine, quite traumatized by this turn of events? What have they been telling you?
Yeah, Heather, so we spoke to some neighbors this morning. One neighbor in particular, sort of living kitty corner to this residence, saying that they were, you know, shocked. They were very emotional. You know, it's just been such a shocking incident. And I believe we have a clip of what that person had to say this morning, what they witnessed.
I come up and look outside, and it's like 10, 12 police cars that I could count. 3 ambulance and a whole bunch of police just walking around, and they put the police tape up around, and I saw police walking around in the back, and I didn't know anything else that would happened. I kind of sensed that it was very serious. And then I saw them escorting a gentleman out to about the end of the block here, and they had him, I guess they were talking to him for a little while, put him in an ambulance, and they left.
Yeah, so there you go, Heather. That's kind of what people in Barrhaven, I mean, these people are just waking up. Some people, you know, slowing down this morning, saying to police, what happened here overnight? So they're just coming to terms with what's happened in their neighborhood. The other thing that we're still trying to get some information on, Heather, is that there is a school near here. Because this is a suburb, lots of schools, lots of families, and we're still trying to get some information about what's happening with that school today. Are students in school? What will be the protocol for the day? I did see some school buses going by here earlier, so we'll still wait and get some more information on that as well over the course of the day.
To CBC Radio earlier this morning, the chief said they're trying to determine exactly which of those schools the kids attended. So this is part of their investigation. And interesting, Sonia, in that interview clip, that witness testimony that you played for us, the gentleman mentioned seeing somebody being taken away. I clarified with the chief, just wondering if that was the suspect or that was someone else. And the chief was clear. The suspect was taken into custody. This is someone else transported to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. So the picture is clarifying, but still a lot more work to do before we understand what has happened, the breadth of it, and of course, the most important thing, Sonia, the motivation behind just such a horrific act of 6 people dead. So I'll be back to you, Sonia, if you would just gather some more information and speak to some more people I can see gathering behind there, and I'll be speaking to you again later this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Heather.
That's Sonia Koenig from CBC Ottawa, who's going to be our eyes and ears on the scene. These are images from overnight. As we've mentioned, the calls to 911 coming in just before 11 p.m. Eastern. Ottawa's Police Chief Eric Stubbs talked about that. I was speaking with him at length just a few minutes ago, just before the top of the last hour. We'll air all of the conversation later this hour. But here's the chief as he took us through those calls to police late last night, when police responded, what they then found at the scene.
It is a real tragic event, Heather. Our members arrived at the scene shortly before 11 o'clock yesterday evening, and fortunately were able to arrest an individual fairly shortly. He's in custody, and but of course discovered 6 deceased people, as you mentioned, 4 children and 2 adults.
Okay, we're just going to go through minute by minute, hour by hour that we have, because you're obviously our greatest source of information here. So the call's coming in just before 11 o'clock, and you responded. You mentioned the suspect, first of all. What can you tell us about him? Male, female, age, relationship to victims? What information about the suspect?
You know, it's early in the investigation, Heather. I will say it's a male that we've arrested. We are still trying to determine the exact relationship to the family from the suspect. But I will say that we do not believe that this is an instance of domestic violence or intimate partner violence.
So that's a key part to the story. Again, as we look back at the scene, at this point, police do not believe this was a case of intimate partner violence. We're looking at live pictures here. Bring this in as you can see the police response and the investigation that continues. Chief Stubbs was telling us is going to continue for at least a couple of days at that location, the crime scene, again, given what police describe as a very complex investigation. The suspect, male, wouldn't tell us, or was not able to tell us, relationship to the victims or age or any of that information. We did talk about the crime scene itself and why he's characterized it as a complex investigation, given the fact there are 6 victims. He wouldn't tell us exactly what was the cause of death. But later in our conversation, I will tell you that he, when I asked him about just how overwhelming this devastation is, he did say how extraordinary it is, and then referred to this as a mass shooting. So, again, not the official word on confirmation, but what he has said publicly on our program, he referred to this as a mass shooting. And we know that 6 people are dead, 4 children, 2 adults. Much more to come on this story today.